Hey there, welcome back to Christmas at the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra, and I'm so glad you're here. When I'm out thrifting, the farmhouse girl in me still likes galvanized and white and that country look. So when I saw this galvanized mail hanger, it was $11.99 regular price, originally from Hobby Lobby. I got it for $3.99 at Value Village, which is a thrift store here in Canada, but is the same as Savers in the United States. The first color I used on the back of the envelope was French linen by DIXIE Belle. I wanted to see if it would create an old weathered finish, but still stay a galvanized look. I didn't like how it turned out, so on the front, I began with folk art acrylic paint in cinnamon brown, and I have a bit of black in my bowl too. Using a round chalk paintbrush, I'll pounce it on and blend it in a lot. I still want some of the metal to show through, but the rusty look is what I'm going for now. Now it's time to start with the black. Getting just a little bit on my brush, I'm going to dab some off in the bowl and then start pouncing on the envelope just like I did with the brown. However, I'm not going very heavy with the black, but I'm still blending it in quite a bit. You can go as heavy as you want. It all depends on the look you're going for. I also wanted to mention that I didn't wait for the brown to dry. I started right away with the black because that gave me the ability to blend both the black and the brown together a little bit and give me even more of a realistic rustic look. Once it was all done, I grabbed a smaller chip brush and dipped it only into the brown. I'm adding an even rustier accent on the edges of the envelope. Again, using just an up and down motion with my brush so it's more realistic. Continuing with the smaller brush, I started out with the brown and then the black just to fill in the spaces that I wasn't able to reach with the large brush. I was out browsing through Michael's a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking for their mini pine cone stems, but they were out of stock. So I figured I could probably make one very easily from what I have at home. This stem is from another greenery branch. I took off all the greens, and I always keep my branches specifically for this type of project. And the mini pine cones are from Dollar Tree. Using hot glue, I'm simply going to add a pine cone to each of the short little branches and save myself $20. This is a little time consuming. It took me about 13 minutes to do this whole branch because you do have to hang on to the little pine cone until the hot glue sets up. I'm not adding any foam to the inside of the envelope. The greens I'm using will fit in there nice and snug. I'm also going to use the pine cone stem, some red pip berries, and this Norfolk pine that I got from Amazon. If you're looking for some inexpensive but good quality pine stems for your holiday decorating, I have a bunch of them listed in my Amazon store. For the final touches to my envelope, I added a couple of wooden tags that I stained red, some rusty bells, and a star, and now I'm making a simple twine bow with regular twine and this red and creamy colored twine. I'll use a bit of hot glue to attach it to the twine that is hanging down. I really love how this turned out, and I can't wait to use it for the holiday season, plus all year round, simply by replacing the greenery each season. Guess what? I've started a new channel called Schwowin Thrifts. I'm so excited to start taking you with me as I thrift different stores for items that can be upcycled into my style of decor, and also just hunting for treasures. I hope you'll check it out and subscribe too. I'll have new videos twice a week for you to enjoy, and then I'll be showing you what I do with those finds here on my DIY channel. I'll have my Schwowin Thrifts channel linked in the description box, and I'll also pin it to the first comment of this video so you can find it really easy. If you've been with me for a while, you know I love working with spindles and wood. Digging through my stash of thrifted spindles, I found three that are different shapes and sizes. Even though I'm making a set of three, I want them each to have their own unique look. I grabbed a whole bunch of different wood pieces to put together as bases for the spindles, a Dollar Tree wood box, some other scrap wood pieces, and I even took apart a chalkboard sign to get the bottom piece of it. I love coming up with new ways to create gorgeous spindle decor inspiration for you. My first idea was to use some finials as the toppers for the spindles, but then I remembered I had some bottle brush trees that were larger in size and would fit perfectly. Some of my spindles came from old beds and chairs, while others were found at various thrift shops. It's rare to find a bunch of spindles at thrift shops, but sometimes I get lucky and I find some here and there. This is the look that I was originally going to do, but I'm glad I switched to the bottle brush trees because they turned out really pretty. To make the spindles look like they belong together, I'll use the same paint color and distressing technique. This is Dropcloth chalk paint from DIXIE, which is my new favorite paint. It's available through my best friend Sonia, who has a link for Canada and the US. I'll make sure to leave it in the description box for you if you'd like to check out some of their products. Once the spindles were dry, I added the bottle brush trees to the top of each one with hot glue. They are a little wiggly, but I think they'll stay at least for one season. Now for the distressing, I decided to use Bell's bronze gilding wax. I'm still learning how to use it, and I am getting better at it, but you know the saying, practice makes perfect. Using a small brush, I'm going to apply it in the grooves and seams of each of the spindles. For a final touch, I simply cut a few strips of Dropcloth fabric and made a simple shoestring bow and glued one on each of the spindles. And this is how they turned out. Bone style trees are still very popular, and I got this one for $1.99. It's definitely not my style, but I saw beyond the blue and the sparkle. I also have these peat pots from the dollar store that I didn't use in the spring for my garden. I'm going to cut pieces and start with a brick lay pattern on the cone using hot glue to apply the pieces. I'm starting off with these larger pieces down at the bottom, and this is just to cover up all of that sparkle so I can start my first layer of the staggered pieces. I'm going to be using pieces probably about an inch wide to start, and then I'm gradually going to make them thinner as I move up the cone. The next layers are going to have about a 1/4 inch gap in between each piece. This way I'll be able to create that staggered look for the next rows. The peat pots have a really fun texture to them, and they're really easy to cut and tear apart. For each of the next rows, I'm going to make sure I cover all of the blue color and then gradually cut each of the peat pieces slightly narrower as I work my way up the tree. This project also took me about 15 minutes, but I don't mind because I just put on my favorite YouTube channels and watch their videos, especially the Christmas ones, and get inspired even more. I hope my projects will inspire you to create some trees of your own as well this year. I'm just about finished, and you can see here how narrow I am cutting the peat pots so they fit nicely around the skinny part of the cone. Once it was completely covered, I glued the very top edges together so it would be closed up and you wouldn't notice any ragged edges. In my stash, I found a primitive wooden star that I'm going to cover with Dixie Belle bronze gilding wax. This will make the perfect topper for the tree. And while I had the gilding wax out and my brush full, I decided to just go over the bottom edges of each of the peat pot pieces. This is just going to bring out an extra little detail and give the tree a little bit more dimension. I felt that the tree looked good but still needed a little something extra. So I watered down a bit of white chalk paint and splattered it on the tree with a small paintbrush. It gave the illusion of snowflakes and was exactly the finishing touch it needed. Let me know what you think of my rustic peat pot tree. On my most recent trip to the Salvation Army thrift shop, I found these two adorable little concrete reindeer planters. The only thing missing was a bit of rustic charm, so I'm using bare antique brown wax to darken them and make them blend into my rusty vintage Christmas theme this year. Using a small brush, I'm applying a generous amount of wax to cover the whole thing, then a smaller brush to get into the tight spaces around the reindeer. Once it's completely covered, I'll let it sit for a few minutes, then wipe off the excess. In a couple of spots, I noticed that the wax came off almost completely. There were some areas on the planters that had the remnants of a sealer on it. So I simply added more wax and then didn't wipe it back. I covered the top and a little bit on the inside of the planter with the wax as well. I did wipe some of that back, but I didn't want any gray to show because I've decided to create tiny little candles out of these planters. Once I was done with the small planters, I remembered that I had thrifted a larger pot with raised snowflakes on it. I thought this would be a perfect third piece to the set. I used the bronze gilding wax for this piece to give it a bit more shine, using a paper towel wrapped around my finger so I could have better control of where the wax was applied. I purchased these wood wicks from Michael's using a 30% off coupon. It's the first time I'm using them, so wish me luck. I'm going to use hot glue to apply them to the bottom of each planter, or at this point, I should probably call them candle pots. Here are my candle supplies. I use a large can that I squished at the top to make a pouring spout. I found this white wax at the thrift store for $1.99, and I have $3 store candles. They are all scent free, but you can add your own scents to customize them. I have an old pot on the stove that is filled about a third of the way with water. Ideally, a low boil is perfect for melting wax. If it's boiling too hard, you risk getting water into the wax. Also, make sure that the weight of the candles inside the tin are heavy enough that it doesn't tip over. I had to get a glass jar from my pantry to use as a second wax melting pot because I needed to use everything I had for my pots. It took about 45 minutes to melt all of the wax. I only used the tin for pouring. The melted wax in the jar I transferred to the tin to make it easier. I filled the pots all the way to the top because I know they will sink a bit in the middle. If that happens, I usually melt a little bit more wax to fill it in again. Now all I have to do is trim the wicks, light them up, and display them with some Christmas decor. I hope I was able to inspire you to check out your local thrift shop for decor items that you could upcycle into custom Christmas decor. I had so much fun making these and can't wait to show you my next video. For now, you can watch these. See you soon!